Fabulous. Let's get started. Awesome. So, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the second in our December bite-sized series, all about paid social. So today's session will be covering TikTok and Snapchat. Just a few housekeeping bits first of all. The session will last for about 40 minutes, and there'll be some time for a Q&A at the end. So do use the chat function throughout if you have any questions or queries, and our speakers will be answering them at the end. We'll also be asking for some audience participation, so keep your eyes peeled for a poll or two. In terms of what we'll be covering in this session, it'll be broken nicely into two sections, with each section covering how to identify your objectives, how to reach your target audience, the different ad formats available, best practice, and our tips and tricks for the two platforms. And we'll also be getting stuck into what the future looks like for paid social on TikTok and Snapchat. First of all, let me introduce you to your speakers for this afternoon session. My name is Mike, and I'm the head of growth marketing here at Arke. That picture was back in lockdown #1 when everyone was shaving their heads. Good times. Here we are now. And think of me as your compere, joined by two of my glamorous assistants, aka the experts. We've got Ben, our paid media manager, and Gemma, our paid media analyst. So moving on to a little bit about Arke. We are a digital marketing agency who unravel your data to paint a picture and tell stories to people who will love your brand. We are intelligent digital marketing. We inspire curiosity into human behavior to help people better understand people. And through the unification of creativity, data, and technology, we see the what, discover the why, and produce experiences that excite and strategies that work. How do we do it? Put simply, our core services are all about stories, so content and creative, intelligence, analytics and data science, and audiences, which is advertising. So the key takeaways from this bite-sized session that we hope you'll be leaving with this afternoon. First of all, everything always starts with objectives. What are you looking to achieve? Number two, continually optimize. Don't just rest on your laurels. As your campaign evolves, so too will your objectives. Are the ad formats right for your new objectives? Have you undertaken insight to inform your changes? Keep on top of all of this and you'll be in a really strong position. And number three, think platform first. Keep it native to the platform. We'll discuss it in quite a lot of detail over the next half an hour or so, but TikTok's whole marketing campaign for advertisers is around don't make ads, make TikToks. And the same goes for Snapchat. So before we jump into the content of this afternoon's bite-sized session, we thought it would be useful to put a slide of some jargon busters up. You might hear Ben and Gemma mentioning CPM, CPCs, and CTRs, but what are they exactly? So CPM refers to cost per impression or cost per mille. Not confusing at all when I tell you that actually refers to the cost per 1,000 impressions. We've then got CPC, which is cost per click, and that's calculated by the total ad spend divided by the number of clicks. And CPMs and CPCs are always monetary values. And last but not least, we've got CTR, which is click-through rate. And that is the number of users who've seen your ad and click through, and that is always calculated as a percentage. So just before we get stuck in properly, it's always a good idea to start this kind of session with really trying to focus and understand who your customers are. But quite often you then need to translate into how that looks in the profile of a user on these platforms. So we can tap into various user interest and intent signals, which will help to identify and reach your audiences. But knowing who you want to target is really the crucial aspect. Think about what channels they're active on, how does their age, their demographic, or their profession affect this? All of this stuff combined together will really help to determine which platform is the best to advertise on, what level of investment you need, and which ad formats to utilize. So now all that's out of the way, it's time to start talking about TikTok. And I'm going to hand over to Gemma to run you through everything TikTok. Oh, Gemma, I think you muted. That's all right.
Sorry, you think I know how to use Zoom by now. Thanks, Mike. So we're going to start with a quick poll just to see how many of you are currently using TikTok advertising. So you'll see a little pop-up on your screen, and we'll just leave it there 15 seconds for you to answer. Awesome, thank you. So the results will be shown at the end. So you might be sat there wondering what on earth TikTok has to do with your business. Well, let's look at some of the facts that will make you understand the magnitude of opportunity that TikTok presents. So there are 1 billion active users. Yes, it's predominantly a young demographic, so 35% of TikTok's global audience is between the ages of 19 and 29. So 28% is under 18. However, that does mean that 37% of users are over the age of 30. So the average TikTok user opens the app 8 times per day and spends around 48 minutes a day scrolling endlessly through videos. It is very addictive. So most users scroll mainly to enjoy funny and entertaining content, but there are some real conversations taking place. And also 67% have actually shopped for a product just because it's on TikTok. And that has led to TikTok actually seeing a rise of around 553% for their in terms of shopping. So shopping has increased by that amount during the pandemic. So that actually means 24% of TikTok users have shopped directly from the app, which is great if you are a small business. So it's not just videos of dogs or funny dog dances. There is a real opportunity here. So you'll see on this slide exactly what I'm talking about when I say there's an opportunity here. So TikTok advertising, as you can see, is by far the cheapest and also achieves the highest click-through rates in comparison to all the other social media accounts, especially its rival Instagram. So for TikTok, it's only 15 pence per click versus Instagram, which is 96 pence. So for click-through rate, it's actually also winning again in comparison to Instagram, and it's just at 0.4%. So yeah, it's definitely worth advertising and tipping your toe into it. So how do you get there? So in terms of kind of, what you want, you have to set out what you want to achieve on TikTok. The first step towards that is really deciding what are your goals, success metrics, what are your expected outcomes from running the ads. And it's really important to ask yourself kind of what are your business goals and how are they going to translate on this platform. So a good place to start with the objectives for TikTok ads are these 3 categories. So they are awareness, which is all about getting people familiar with your brand or company. Consideration is the second one, which gets people to think about your business and seek more information. And then the third one is conversion. So this really encourages people to buy your products or use your services. So it's important to be aware of those 3 objectives when you're looking at a TikTok campaign. And also do remember, they're not necessarily set in stone. So as your business grows or you enter certain peaks of the year, you can be flexible what you want to achieve, just campaign by campaign. So in terms of your audiences, how would you go about targeting them on TikTok? So let me just explain. The first thing you can do is actually target people based on demographics. So it's from age to location, which is really great for local advertising. TikTok has recently enhanced its offering in this area. So before you could only target by country, but more recently we're able to go down to postcode level, which has been a bit of a game changer. In other ways you can target audiences on TikTok are by interests and behaviors. So in terms of interest, when a user's historical interaction with certain categories of content on TikTok is high, their profile will be associated with a corresponding interest. So let's take education, for example. So a user's profile can be associated with education just because they often watch education-based videos and click on similar ads. So this particular method does focus on a user's long-term content consumption to improve engagement, relevancy, and improves investment for brands. So another way you can target people is, as we mentioned, through different segments of audience. So it's good in the sense that what we could do is we could actually target audiences based on the data you already have. So for example, what we could do is target new audiences based on customers who have looked at your landing page but haven't yet bought your product. So there is a number of ways to do that. And what you could actually use is the TikTok pixel to remarket to those users, for example. So in terms of ad types, let's take a look at a few of those, as these are kind of standard types that you expect to see on TikTok, but also we have actually thrown in a couple of wild cards, so do keep a lookout. So the first option is hashtag ads. So these are very popular on TikTok. So it's where brands create custom challenges under a hashtag. And these challenges usually have a unique sound that users can overlay onto their videos. So brands can pay to actually sponsor a hashtag on TikTok, which would be displayed on the Discover page just to gain more exposure. And recently, well, within the last years, I don't know if anyone saw, but fashion site Zara Laura launched a Z Style Now TikTok campaign. What they did is they asked users to show many different styles as possible in a minute using the Z symbol. So, you know, you can be as creative as you like, really, with these types of campaigns. So for that brand, that campaign actually did gain more than 1 million views and 62,000 responses and 1,100 downloads off the app. So it just shows you what you can do if you do think a little bit outside the box when it comes to TikTok. So the second option on TikTok is also top view ads. So top view campaigns actually take over the screen for the first 3 seconds when you open the app. So after this, they appear in feed and the user can click through to the landing page. So one case study with this is actually from eBay. So they used a really interesting copy and creative to highlight how the site aids small businesses promoting their Stronger as One campaign. So this played every single time the app was opened. So it was global and it was for 24 hours on the 17th of May last year, and it did perform really well. So eBay gained around 18 million impressions and a really high click-through rate of 17.28%. And it took users to the landing page where they learned more about the campaign. So that's one example of a brand really nicely using a top view ad to promote their campaign. And then another type of ad on TikTok you might see as well, you might want to place even, is the in-feed ad. So this is the most disruptive form of advertising on the app, since it inserts itself between the user and the content and the content they're trying to watch even. So these full screen ads appear as the user swiping between the TikTok posts. So one example of this is when Nike used in-feed advertising to generate awareness for the release of their new football boots. So they teamed up with the athlete Kevin De Bruyne, who joined forces with TikTok creator Ben, who had 2.2 million followers, who directed the kickstarted campaign. So in the end, it actually had 15 million views and 46 million interactions. So it was really big, all while increasing Nike's TikTok following by 215,000 followers in 6 days. So that's really good stats there from Nike. So the ad was, very organic and it felt very native. And, that's the kind of content that really sits well on TikTok. But, you don't have to be such a big brand to achieve success on TikTok. And we'll go into that a little bit later. So in terms of the final ad, with all the ad formats, we would actually recommend the in-feed format is the best one for you to start using it, as it's the most disruptive form of advertising on the app. And a lot of people aren't tired when it comes to ad fatigue. So another option is branded lenses. So I don't know if anyone's seen this at all, this type of ad. So how it works is TikTok have utilized augmented reality to implement branded filters and objects and environments for users to play and create videos. So it's quite similar to other social media platforms such as Snapchat and Instagram, which we'll cover shortly. And the branded lenses can also be used alongside other ad formats to really drive home awareness and engagement. So everyone can share their input and get involved. In Vietnam, Coca-Cola actually launched a campaign using augmented reality alongside a hashtag campaign. So what they did is they used the lens, showed the user being low on energy and their battery is flat. But then once they drink augmented reality Coca-Cola can, their battery fills up and they are full of energy again. So this lens also used the hashtag challenge and earned over 31 million views in its first week. So that's just another example of how you can use TikTok creatively to target a new audience. So in terms of how to track it, obviously, it's really important to measure the success, but what do you actually do when it comes to measuring the success? How do you measure it? So in terms of metrics, there are 3 fundamental tools when reporting and analyzing your TikTok campaigns. So our favorite is Google Analytics, where you can track conversations and website activity. And you can also gather a wealth of data using Google Analytics, which can help form your TikTok ad strategy. Another way is the TikTok Pixel. So this is a piece of code placed in the header of your website that collects user data from your site. So that's another way. And then another way to track is the in-platform measurement tool. So you can learn a lot of information within TikTok's business manager. So this will give you a good insight into how the platform is performing for you and what's really engaging with your target audience. So when you are in these platforms and you are using these tools, it is a matter of what's the best way to track them. So some of the metrics that would be really good to keep an eye on quite closely throughout your campaign is engagement. So is your ad being well received? Has it got a high click-through rate, or has it got a low click-through rate? And maybe that's something you can use to test and learn during the campaign. And then number of video views, that's really important for TikTok, as well as number of clicks on products. So this goes back to your business objectives and what you're trying to achieve with this platform on TikTok. So in terms of monetary value, it is important to obviously keep an eye on cost per click, just to see if that's performing well for you and trying to keep that as low as possible. As we know, TikTok has a really low cost per click generally. So, if you're going to invest anywhere at the minute, it really is a good idea to get on TikTok. And then other ways to measure is cost per 1,000 view, so CPM. And then you obviously, really want to measure conversions, depending on what your goals are, as well as tracking website engagement with Google Analytics. That's important to monitor. So in terms of best practice, there are some tried and tested ways to kind of really get on board with TikTok, and these 8 points will give you as many tools as possible to get ahead of your competitors in 2022. So number 1, don't make ads, make TikToks. So as you can see on the slide, this is TikTok's primary message when it comes to advertising. So do make sure the content looks organic, not too corporate or slick or overproduced, because it will just get scrolled past immediately. So I would say you do need to prioritize vertical views and then limit the video length, as well as starting with the impactful visual, and make sure all the important elements are centered. It's a great idea to add background music, and don't forget the captions either, just to make sure it's fully accessible, especially to people who are watching it without the music on. And do include a compelling call to action that really gets people interested in your product and brand. So our top tips. So some ad formats obviously will work better than others, and we do recommend that you use in-feed advertising, as it will not only get your brand seen, but it's definitely the most cost-effective route into TikTok ads. So it would be amazing if you could combine ad formats, in the sense that you could use the hashtag challenge to really get your message out there, whilst you're using some of the other kind of more left field ad formats. So the best ad campaigns that you'll come across will be in-feed ads, and then you'll scroll further down and you'll see someone performing a dance challenge using your branded hashtag. So the final tip there is it's the number 1 performing paid channel. So do use it and just have a go, be creative. Don't forget that the stats we showed you earlier, it really is a hidden gem, and getting on the platform while costs per click are really cheap and users haven't suffered from ad fatigue is really a great opportunity to supercharge your business into the next year. So in terms of a few other tips, do make sure when you're selecting your audiences that you use interest and lookalike based audiences. These 2 combinations will really help target your advertising campaign if you are able to layer these audiences, perhaps with a narrower demographic interest-based targeting around certain products. It will maximize the relevancy of your campaign, which does translate to performance. And it has been shown that ad groups with this layer have achieved 55% better engagement for paid placements. So that's something to bear in mind. And in addition to that, with the in-feed placements, just start with these. If you're small, start with these, and do make sure that you are using this option just to dip your toes into the waters of TikTok advertising. And that's really our number 1 recommendation. So moving forward in terms of the future, what does TikTok have in store? So the introduction of TikTok Sellers app is something that's new. So it's something that will allow you to run all aspects of TikTok Shop from your mobile device. So from initially registering as a seller to managing inventory and orders to analyzing your online business. So the app will also allow you to register your campaigns and manage your promotions, engage in customer services, and also access seller education materials. So it's important to note that's only available in Indonesia at the moment, but it will be coming to our shores very soon. And also another point for TikTok moving forward, the introduction of business registration. So again, brand new from TikTok, the business registration function will enable brands to list their business category on their profile. So whilst giving them early access to new business features. So this is the next step in TikTok's e-commerce offering by better highlighting different businesses and showcasing them to relevant users. It could also help to communicate what your business does and make it easier to drive purchase actions from your profile on TikTok. So it's something just to bear in mind. And the final feature looking forward point is enhanced targeting options. So, we did mention earlier, it's just a case of making sure that you are aware of any new targeting options because they are evolving all the time. And at the minute, it doesn't quite yet have the targeting muscles of Facebook and Google, but the app does continue to attract users in droves. So do watch this space and do experiment with the location-based targeting. So that's it for TikTok. So now over to Snapchat. So Ben, take it away.
Hi, thanks, Gemma. So first of all, as we did at the start with TikTok, we're just going to run another quick poll just to determine how many of you are using Snapchat to advertise at the moment. So you'll have about 15 seconds to answer. Lovely, thank you. So we'll share these results at the end, but starting things off in a similar fashion with some stats that we think you might need to know about Snapchat. So first of all, Snapchat boasts a whopping 306 million daily active users, so plenty of opportunity there to reach your audience. And 57% of these users are aged 15 to 26, so definitely a younger demographic here. 3 billion snaps are created and shared daily, and Snapchatters open the app 30 times a day, which seems quite a lot. And they're also 60% more likely to make impulse purchases too. And 5% of Snapchatters are sending snaps to their network about products that they're interested in buying. And then finally, and perhaps a bit surprisingly, more than 100 million consumers are now shopping with artificial reality features, which we'll touch more on in a second. So as we did for TikTok, let's just have a look at the level of performance that you can expect from running ads on Snapchat. And first of all, cost per click is a little more expensive than TikTok at 52p compared to 15p. And it does cost slightly more to reach your audience. However, compared to some other social channels, Snapchat is still incredibly cost effective with a similar cost per thousand or CPM to Instagram with a higher click-through rate of 0.58%. But on top of that, we do often see that Snapchat delivers super strong conversion rates, making this channel really effective for not only driving awareness and engaging your audience, but achieving sales, bookings, leads, or whichever conversion action is most important to your business. Just some food for thought. So hopefully by now, you're understanding that the first step in any advertising campaign, or in fact any marketing campaign, is to first understand your objectives. And advertising on Snapchat covers a pretty wide range. Again, some questions to ask yourself at the start is, what are you looking to achieve? Do you want to promote your shop, drive calls, messages, encourage website visits, or prompt downloads of your app if you've got one. This will really dictate how you go about targeting and the ad formats that you might choose. So we know that Snapchat is a great tool to target users based on their online and real world interests and behaviors, as well as their geographic location and by demographic. We can also optimize campaigns with Snapchat's advanced audience targeting options, and this allows for really, really highly kind of segmented and targeted campaigns. And we can drive more conversions and engagement with some simple retargeting techniques, helping your brand stay top of mind. And now moving on to some of the different ad types available to advertisers on Snapchat. First of all, we've got single image or video ads. Now this is probably the most common ad format, and it really allows you to make an instant impact. These ads are full screen and immersive, so can be used for most of the objectives that we identified at the start. And all you really need to do is upload your creative and a call to action, as well as an attachment, which can be a web view where your landing page will load. It can be an app install, which directs users to your app install page, or a deep link, which can help re-engage users who already have your app. So you can direct them to a particular section, such as a latest collection or an exclusive sale. Next up, we've got collection ads. So these feature 4 tappable tiles, which allow you to showcase multiple products or services, introducing new ways for your audience to browse, engage, and buy from you. And these ads are all about showcasing your kind of catalog of products, services, and USPs in order to encourage that conversion. Next up, we've got story ads. And these are a series of 3 to 20 single image or video ads, which are delivered in between the content or through a branded tile within Snapchat's Discover section. And they really do what they say on the tin. They allow you to reach Snapchatters with a series of ads, driving awareness of your products or services at scale, and then ultimately leading to conversions as users click through to your site and spend more time with your offerings. And then we've got AR experiences. And now this is really where Snapchat is doubling down on its advertising efforts at the moment. And these ad types allow you to connect with consumers using augmented reality, which users can engage with, play with, and importantly, send to their friends. And they create really interactive moments through augmented reality experiences, therefore opening up your brands to the world when users are out and about. And we've got commercials. So these are a bit more like traditional ads that you might find on video streaming sites like YouTube. They're non-skippable for 6 seconds, and they can be up to 3 minutes long, although we wouldn't necessarily recommend that. Perhaps less work for you, but 10 to 15 seconds tends to be the sweet spot in terms of video length. But commercial ads will appear within Snapchat's curated content and really do help engage with your audience and help drive brand awareness. And then last but not least, we've got filters. So these are simply artistic overlays that appear after a user takes a snap and then swipes left or right. And these ads allow you to take part in the conversations that Snapchatters are having with their friends and network, extending your reach and really helping to boost your brand awareness. So importantly, how to track. So in terms of analyzing the effectiveness and the impact of your advertising campaign on Snapchat, you will see the old favorites here, like Google Analytics and a Pixel that Gemma went through. But what is the SK Ad Network? So in short, the SK Ad Network is Apple's privacy-friendly way to attribute impressions and clicks to app installs, if you have an app, on the App Store. And this really helps advertisers measure the success of ad campaigns whilst maintaining user privacy, which is obviously a very hot topic at the moment. And then there's also Snapchat's self-serve ads manager and audience insights tools, which we'll cover shortly. But in terms of what you want to track, it's actually a really, really similar story to TikTok. So focus on conversion and engagement, and you won't go too far wrong when measuring the success of your campaigns. So in terms of best practice for Snapchat, we've rounded up 10 key points that you want to make sure that you're covering. And the first of these is to set yourself up for success from the get-go. It's really important that you choose the right ad format for your goals, whether that be awareness, engagement, or conversion. It's also important that you showcase your product or service front and center in your ad creative, making sure that users are engaged from the moment you appear. And try as hard as possible to make your ads feel native to Snapchat. So try and blend in with organic content and add value to the user's experience. And drive urgency with relevant messaging. So, excuse me, you might want to include timings for offers or sales, or any deadlines that you might have. And as we've mentioned before, design for sound on, but delight for sound off as well. So we recommend that you use caption overlays and link to your ad properly by ensuring that your landing page is relevant to the user and the message in your ads too. Another crucial point is to keep on testing. So test ads creative and try new ad formats to really find what works best for you, your audience, and your objective. And use goal-based bidding to bid towards your desired action. Again, super important to have to make sure that you hit the ground running. And then finally, broaden your targeting to reach as many of your audience as possible to avoid kind of frequencies getting too high and that ad fatigue setting in. Which leads us on to our final point, which is understanding your audience reach in order to optimize and continually improve performance as you gain those new insights and learnings. But to go a little deeper on those points, we've rounded up some of our top tips when it does come to Snapchat, which if you want to supercharge your ad efforts in 2022, and I'm sure you do, you'll definitely want to implement a few of these. So as we just mentioned, choosing the right ad format to match your Snapchat ad goals is essential. Remember that those objectives at the start and each ad type that we went through, and each one will correlate with a certain objective better. These next three are all about the creative aspects of your ads. So great visuals is really key. So nothing blurry or pixelated. Really try and think about the quality of your visuals and how these reflect upon your brand. We find that short, snappy messaging works really well for the short attention spans of users. So really think about what the purpose of your ad is and how to best get this to come across. And include an enticing call to action. So tell the audience exactly what you want them to do. We recommend that you use user-generated content, and this will really help your ads to feel more kind of authentic and less overproduced. And try out the shoppable AR lens feature as well. A recent study by Deloitte revealed that 94% of people expect to use AR for shopping. If you combine that with all of the talk recently of the metaverse, this is definitely a feature that you're going to be wanting to use in the future. Link your Snapchat ads to the correct landing page. This sounds pretty basic, but it's really important to take into account what your objective is and what users kind of expect to see once they land on your website. And use split testing to help figure out what works best for you, your business, and your audience. Which brings us on nicely to audience insights. So as we mentioned earlier, Snapchat actually has a tool called Audience Insights that provides you with a wealth of information about your audience, and this can really help you to tweak your campaigns and improve your conversion rates. So inside this tool, you can compare and create new audience segments, the data, a mixture of demographics, Snap lifestyle categories, and external third-party partners. Really does tell you more about your current audience, and it helps you discover new segments for your brand too. And last but not least on Snapchat, what does the future hold? So there really isn't any doubt about it. The future of Snapchat really is in the kind of alternative reality sphere. And as we've been saying throughout, there's advertising and organic options that really allow you to experiment with AR. Snap, who are the parent company of Snapchat, are one of the kind of few key players in this space. And they recently announced a new addition that will allow developers the ability to transform any local landscape or building. And the example that they gave was Big Ben, whereby a user could scan it and it would be turned into a sort of wobbly landmark when seen through a phone. Or another example is users putting the Matrix into their own living rooms. So this obviously opens up a really kind of large kind of myriad of advertising options, ad types, messages, and creatives available to you. And it's definitely a space to keep one eye on as we move more and more into a sort of virtual world.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Ben and Gemma. Really, really useful. So just to wrap things up before we jump into the Q&A, because I can see that there's a load of questions that's been coming through, which is cool. And we will get onto them, I do promise. Just to reiterate those key takeaways that we took you through at the start and that the guys have been talking you through over the last 40 minutes. First of all, everything always starts with objectives. Always begin everything by deciding what you're looking to achieve, and everything will fall off the back of that from there. Secondly, continue to optimize. As I've been saying, naturally your campaign evolves, your objectives will evolve, different ad formats at certain times of the year. If you're looking at achieving certain things, it can be different ad formats. Constantly test and learn, play around with your messaging, with your creative, see what works best. And finally, as I've been saying throughout, and as TikTok say, don't make ads, make TikToks. And I guess Snapchats would be don't make ads, make snaps, maybe. I don't know. But just keep your content native to the platform, and don't make anything too polished. Otherwise, it will just get either scroll past or flick straight past. And last but not least, before we get onto the Q&A, we do have a special offer for those who've attended today. And to help kickstart and supercharge your social media advertising efforts, and as we're now, less than 2 weeks for Christmas, we are offering a free paid social audit for you all. So the offer includes an audit of your existing TikTok and Snapchat paid social activity, or if you're not doing it, it will be full pack full of recommendations and a really nice competitor analysis as well, all rounded up really nicely with some next steps. So you can use that moving forwards into next year. What I would say is keep your eyes peeled on your emails. Straight after this session, I'll be following up pretty much immediately, and it will include some information about how to go about securing that offer. And very much last but not least, a huge thank you for attending our session this afternoon. Really appreciate it. We ran one last week, went really well, and I can see with the number of questions that have come in that this has also been really engaging, which is really good. We've got one more session taking place next Monday at 11 o'clock, all about LinkedIn. I think some of you already signed up, which is awesome. If not, I'll be following up with those who haven't again later on, but follow a very similar format. And like I said, keep those eyes peeled on your inbox for information about the offer. And there will be a little survey at the end of this, as soon as I hit stop sharing and end meeting, that we'd love for you to fill out, and it can really help shape our content that we deliver moving forwards into next year. And there we go. As I promised, question time. And whilst we wait for those questions to come in, I can see Ben and Gemma are busy trying to work out what's been asked. Really interesting kind of, differentiation between nobody advertising on TikTok, which is really interesting. So we hope you found that useful. And kind of 50-50 advertising on Snapchat and advertising not, which is a nice mixture. So I hope you found that really useful. Any questions, hello@arkeagency.com. if we don't cover them now. But without further ado, then number one, can you run a conversion campaign on TikTok if you don't own the website you're sending people to? For example, if you were selling tickets via Eventbrite.
Cool. So the short answer is yes, you can. The longer answer would be yes, you can, but you need to make sure that you have the permissions to set up either a pixel or integrate via something like Google Analytics. We know that Eventbrite is normally very good for kind of pixel integrations, but when that doesn't exist, you can still send people through to Eventbrite, but then track it through your GA and record conversions that way.
Awesome. And then another one for you, Ben. Can you run the ads and business side of TikTok on desktop or a website, or is it all done through the mobile app?
Cool. Yeah, so TikTok ads aren't actually run through the mobile app. There's something called TikTok Ads Manager, which is essentially just a kind of a desktop web app. And this is where you would kind of run, build, optimize and report on your campaigns. It might be available on mobile, but probably a lot easier just to run them on desktop.
Yeah. Cool. Gemma, optimal video length or video ad length for Snapchat and TikTok, what would you say that is?
So a good length is 10 to 15 seconds. It's good to keep them really short and snappy. That's the whole kind of look and feel of these platforms. And obviously you don't want to be spending your time doing so much work. It's better to create a series of ads rather than one long one, and just make sure they are between 10 and 15 seconds.
Fab. This is a good question. So obviously there's been recent changes to targeting on Facebook and Instagram, particularly around under 18s, and there's been various other changes as well. So with, can you do interest targeting to under 18s on these platforms? Obviously now that it's restricted on the others. Ben, do you want to take that away?
Yeah, sure. So as Mike mentioned, obviously it's getting harder and harder to target under 18s on Facebook and Instagram. But luckily, Snapchat and TikTok, both of them don't have restrictions at the moment. So they're actually really, really good channels to kind of engage with youth audiences. We can't say that that's going to stay the same forever, but at the moment it's a yes.
Fab. Here you go. Big open-ended question, but we'll go with it. What's the difference between Snapchat and TikTok, would you say? I guess creatively as well, paid media. What would you say? How do you differentiate the two of them?
Yeah, so I would say the main difference between Snapchat and TikTok is probably the demographics using them. I think Snapchat tends to draw in a slightly younger crowd, but I would say experiment with both. I suppose the other main differences are the kind of targeting criteria, the different ad types available. I'd say those are the main differences, but just have a play around on both of them.
Yeah, which I think leads us really nice into the next question, Gemma. So for startups, what would be your top tip? I guess startups they've got low budgets and not a vast pool of resources to pull upon. What's your top tip?
So I suppose my top tip will be for bigger kind of brands. We would recommend A/B testing, but when you're small, you have to fail fast and learn quick. So just try and find what works for you. It is about kind of going and trying something that hasn't been done before. So it has to be original content, and just make sure that you are testing one variable, at least in your campaign. So different audience segmentation is the best way to go about it, really, to start with, and just see, what works for your brand, because there'll be a sweet spot for every single business and every single brand. So really just keep going until you find that.
Awesome. Ben, would you recommend being able to repurpose content to fit on multiple channels? For example, I guess, is that natural TikToks, Instagram Reels, and how that fits into Snapchat and things like that? Because they're all very similar, aren't they, I guess?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, generally it's fine to kind of repurpose content among kind of the TikToks, Instagram stories, Reels, Snapchat. The only thing that you would need to consider is if your creative is kind of fit for purpose among different kind of ad types, for example. If you're just running kind of a standard vertical 15-second video, that's absolutely fine. But do take into account the different layouts of the apps. And if part of your ad might be blocked by a bit of text on one app where it's not on the other, and vice versa.
Fab. And then I think one last question. I appreciate that it's 3:51. So if you have got any more questions that come in, pop them in now or send us an email afterwards. We'll do a little roundup blog as well. So we'll cover any questions that come in afterwards in that written version. Have these two platforms also faced issues with iOS updates, I guess, with all the privacy tracking and things like that came in a couple of months ago?
Yes. Yeah. So pretty much all mobile advertising, certainly when you're reaching users on kind of Apple iPhones, will be affected by the new kind of privacy changes. So unfortunately, yeah, both Snapchat and TikTok have been affected. But there are a number of ways in order to circumvent that to some extent. And one of the kind of tactics that we find to work really well is kind of retargeting people based upon their kind of in-platform engagements, and then kind of tracking their behaviors through something like Google Analytics 4. We find that that's the kind of best way so far.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I think that's the last question. So thank you ever so much, Ben and Gemma, for delivering that. Really hope that everyone attended, really enjoyed it. Like I said, keep your eyes peeled for that offer email, which will land in your inbox very shortly. But yeah, that's all for this afternoon. So thank you ever so much, and we'll see you very soon.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone. Bye-bye.